An update on the relationship between CM Punk and the Elite, or lack thereof, ahead of Punk's possible return to AEW in a few months' time. Cody Rhodes has been doing the rounds recently when it comes to media ahead of WrestleMania, and he has spoken for the first time on his reaction to the situation backstage after All Out with the brawl between CM Punk and the Elite. Also, Dax Harwood, speaking of CM Punk, has possibly hinted that he is considering an offer to return to WWE upon the expiration of his AEW contract alongside Cash Wheeler. Mercedes Moné is set to make her New Japan Pro Wrestling in-ring debut this weekend, but will she be in the main event at Battle in the Valley? We'll talk about that. The Guns have spoken about the reaction to their AEW World Tag Team Championship victory last week. Tony Khan has spoken about his philosophy for booking the AEW Ring of Honor crossover, and Dustin Rhodes has also spoke about being referenced on Raw this week. Hey guys, welcome back to Wrestling News 365. Hope everyone is doing very well. As always, there are plenty of news stories to get into in the world of All Elite Wrestling. And let's start off talking about CM Punk once again and AEW. Of course, we get closer and closer to Punk being available, certainly, to return to AEW as he recovers from his torn triceps he suffered last year All Out. He underwent surgery. He was out of action, or set to be out of action, certainly for 9 months. Now, several months have passed since then, and he gets closer and closer to being cleared to wrestle. But where is he going to wrestle? Is he going to return to AEW? Is he going to leave AEW? Is he going to be bought out of his contract by Tony Khan? What's going on? What's his relationship like currently with Kenny Omega and the Young Bucks after being in a backstage fight with them at All Out last year? Now, the latest update has emerged on the relationship between AEW, CM Punk, and the Elite, that being Kenny Omega, the Young Bucks, and Hangman Adam Page, for what that's worth as well. Now, it can be argued that AEW is still reeling from the effects of what transpired after All Out last September, as CM Punk embarked on a verbal tirade against Colt Cabana, Kenny Omega, the Young Bucks, and Hangman Adam Page in the post-AEW All Out media scrum. This stemmed from Punk believing that EVPs had leaked stories about Punk, preventing Colt Cabana from being involved with AEW since his debut with the company, and Page attempting to reference the real-life backstage tensions on television, which Punk didn't know he was going to do. With Punk being out due to injury after All Out, he wouldn't have been a factor in television plans since then anyway, but as he continues to recover from that injury, AEW CEO and President and Head of Creative and General Manager, got to get all the titles in, Tony Khan is going to have to make a decision soon about whether to bring Punk back to AEW television. You'd think a step in the right direction would be at least having something of a reconciliation between the parties, or attempting to mend fences, or at the very least get a dialogue going, but it doesn't sound like any moves have been made in that direction just yet. Speaking on Wrestling Observer Radio, Dave Meltzer said, quote, "A lot of damage has been done. There's a lot of mending of fences that needs to be done, and there's been no mending of fences at all. It's a big situation because Punk could be back in 2 months. Then there's a decision. That's going to be a big story. How does that go down or doesn't go down?" Of course, CM Punk got fans talking a couple of days ago as he posted a clip on Instagram of a video about forgiving people from a distance, not by CM Punk. It was one of these reels that are posted on Instagram. And again, he's posted several things on Instagram in his absence. He's poked fun at the AEW ratings of MJF. He's also posted pictures of him watching Bret Hart matches. He's posted pictures of himself with AEW stars, including the likes of Dax Harwood, who we'll touch on later, Brody King, and others. But as far as Dave Meltzer is saying, there hasn't been any dialogue or conversation between Punk and the Elite, and no fences mended just yet. Again, CM Punk in that video suggested that he didn't really care. He's forgiven those involved, but he doesn't have to work alongside them, alongside them. He doesn't have to work closely with them. Again, once we get any updates as to if CM Punk is indeed planning on returning, if AEW wants to bring CM Punk back, of course, we'll let you know. Now, of course, it all stems from the Brawl Out situation, the brawl involving CM Punk and the Elite at AEW All Out. And curious, a lot of people have been interested to know, what are Cody Rhodes' thoughts about all of that? Of course, he was a former AEW EVP. He wasn't there at the time because he'd already left for WWE. But what were his thoughts on that? Would he have been involved in a situation like that if he was still with the company? The now infamous AEW All Out media scrum has been the talk of the wrestling world even to this day, with CM Punk still yet to return to the company. The incident in question saw Punk, The Elite, and Ace Steel take part in a backstage altercation in which all parties involved were suspended from the company and Steel eventually being released. One executive vice president who was not around for the altercation obviously was Cody Rhodes. Now, Rhodes appeared on the MMA Hour with Ariel Helwani yesterday, where he was asked about the media scrum. Now, he obviously, as I mentioned, was not around at the time because he had already returned to WWE. Rhodes left in February of last year, late January, early February. He then returned to WWE in April of the same year and has been with the company ever since. So, of course, he wasn't even under contract to AEW at the time, so he couldn't have been around, but certainly it's interesting to get Rhodes' thoughts. Here's what Cody Rhodes had to say on the entire situation as well as his relationship with the Elite to this day.
I had a great relationship with Matt, Nick, and Kenny. I still do. It definitely was tested by being young executives. It was tested by having different opinions on wrestling. But our different opinions is what made it strong. That's what made us work. I want to do Crockett and old school, and they want to do PWG and West Coast, and damn, I loved it. I liked that. That contention is what made us bond. We're bonded forever because of the things we did. I also had a great relationship with Punk. He was my dinner buddy. You know, they'd order dinner for me at AEW every week as one of my management perks or whatever. I don't think he knew. I always just put it on my tab because I wanted to make sure he was getting something too, salmon or sushi. So we didn't talk a lot, but I had a great relationship. We would still like chat and was so excited to have him back. And gosh, like even if you remember when he came back, everyone was fired up about that, everybody. So when I watched it, just from my sitting there, I was not, there were some people texting me. I remember somebody texting me, man, you're the smartest guy in the room. And I wanted to write back, like, F you, man. Like, I don't feel that way. I feel this thing we built got damaged. And I'm not putting any blame on anybody. Sorry, I was super Switzerland in this moment.
No, I get it.
I'm not putting any blame on anybody, but I just hated seeing that because as the company grows, and I hope it continues to grow, I hope people remember the mission in the first place, why we were there. And if you bring in people who don't know the mission, then things like that can happen. And I'm not saying he didn't know the mission or anything of that nature, but I was just bummed out. That's how I felt. I was bummed out because you win a title, it's a feather in your cap. You win the Royal Rumble, it's a feather in your cap. Building an alternative wrestling promotion is definitely a feather in the cap. I don't want that to be erased. I don't want that to go away. Plus, there's not as many jobs in wrestling as people think. There's about 1,000 people who work there, structurally, infrastructure, and talent. I'm proud of them, and I want to make sure they're able to feed their families. And that was a situation that was so big and heavy. I don't think it was helpful, right? And I don't know, maybe you can make it helpful, maybe you can do something with it, but it was just, that's how I felt. No heat on Punk, no heat on Matt, Nick, Kenny, or Tony. I was just bummed out when I saw it. That's not how we envisioned it. If you were at All In, were you at All In?
No.
All right, the spirit of All In. If you ever lose the spirit, you're lost.
Right.
And I think the spirit was gone in that moment. Doesn't mean you can't get it back. But it was just
certainly very interesting comments from Cody Rhodes there. Again, it's really the first time we've ever heard his perspective on things because he wasn't there, but he also at the same time was a founding member of the company. He was an EVP, so surely he would have an opinion, and surely there'll be a lot of people talking to him. And again, very interesting to hear his comments. Now, speaking of Punk as well, Dax Harwood is someone who's very close to the former AEW World Champion, and he may have just let the cat out of the bag that FTR could be returning to WWE once their AEW contracts are up. Now, of course, it's no secret that the AEW contracts of FTR members Dax Harwood and Cash Wheeler are set to expire in April. Dax himself has said as much. Dax said that one scenario he saw playing out was that he and Cash would leave AEW and just float around the various independent promotions, not signing a contract with any large company. However, Dax may have teased he could be potentially heading back to WWE with Cash in a now deleted tweet. Now, we got the tweet in question. We're going to put it up on the screen here. Now, what's curious, you might look at that tweet, and I've zoomed in the image a little bit because if you look in the bottom left-hand corner of the image, there is a partial piece of a pretty recognizable logo, isn't it? Now, the tweet saw Dax take a picture of a bottle of tequila, but fans noticed a rather interesting logo creeping into the photo on a piece of paper in the bottom left. Now, obviously, this might not be a big deal at all. It might just be Dax just trolling people, similar to AEW World Champion MJF's ongoing talk of the bidding war of 2024. Fans have speculated that Dax and Cash could return to AEW television soon, following the Gun Club shocking AEW World Tag Team Championship victory on last week's edition of Dynamite. Again, it might be a situation of actually this photo in question is actually even more likely that they will return to AEW. Nevertheless, it got people talking. Let me know your thoughts on it in the comment section below. Mercedes Martinez is set to be making her New Japan Pro Wrestling in-ring debut this weekend at Battle in the Valley, but will she be the main event? Well, Monet is set for her first match since her WWE departure this weekend. As I mentioned, she'll face former WWE rival Kairi for the IWGP Women's Championship at New Japan Battle in the Valley in San Jose, California on February 18. Recently, fans of Mercedes Monet have taken to Twitter to pitch for the Women's Championship match to main event the show, but it does have some stiff competition. New Japan announced a huge IWGP World Championship match for the show, with champion Kazuchika Okada set to defend his title against legendary rival Hiroshi Tanahashi on the show. Per PW Insider, the latest installment in the legendary Okada vs Tanahashi rivalry is in fact set to be the main event this weekend in San Jose. Kairi's defense against Mercedes is listed as the co-main event and is set to be the penultimate match on the show. The show will also feature Jay White in action against Eddie Kingston, following his loser leaves Japan match against Hikuleo, in which he lost, of course, with many thinking that the match this weekend could be his swan song for the company. Now, ahead of the match, Monet has got very emotional on social media, certainly. She shared an emotional clip on her Twitter account, on her social media accounts, seen in the clip as being emotional but grateful regarding the support she's been shown by fans. Mercedes teases more to come. The hotly anticipated return to the ring, as I mentioned, is set for this weekend at Battle in the Valley. Should Mercedes Moné be in the main event at Battle in the Valley this weekend? You can let me know your thoughts if you think Moné should be the main event in the comment section below. Let's get some more reaction from AEW. Of course, last week we saw new AEW World Tag Team Champions be crowned in the Guns, and they've commented on the fan reaction to their tag team title victory. As I mentioned, the Guns won the gold on the February 8th edition of Dynamite, defeating the Acclaimed in the main event of the show. The title change was immediately met with "this is bullshit" chants from the live crowd and a lot of criticism online. Speaking on Busted Open Radio, Colton Gunn reflected on his wrestling career, noting, quote, "It was the greatest moment of my life. I don't know if a lot of people know this, but I've only been wrestling for 2 years. I was on TV after 8 weeks of training. My first match on TV was against Sting. I'm really good at this. My one goal was to win the tag team championships with my brother, and I did that. Another thing is, me and Austin have been broken away from my dad for 4 to 6 months, something like that. We've had maybe 10 TV matches together, maybe, and we're already champions. People are like, oh, this is the peak. This isn't even the beginning for me in Austin, and I just want to reiterate that and let people not forget that we've only been doing this for less than 10 TV matches. But that moment was awesome. We're champions, and you can't take that away from us." Austin addressed the reactions of the internet wrestling community, arguing, quote, "We're so sick of not being handed or given our flowers. Colton has been in this business for 2 years. Every time we step out of that curtain, everybody on Twitter is like, the Guns are so boring. I can't get behind them. Oh my gosh, they're not even good at wrestling. Every time we go out there, I can't even hear Colton over the arse boy chants and the way we have them in the palm of our hands. So when that 1, 2, 3 happens and Bowens doesn't kick out, everybody I look over, the crowd and everybody is like, oh my God, my favorite tag team. No, not the Acclaimed. Oh no, that is the best moment. I can't even sleep. I still think about it. It's one of the best moments I've ever had in my wrestling career, hearing the hush and the silence of the crowd, which was followed by bullshit chants while me and Colton were raising the titles high on the stage, looking over, just embracing the bullshit chants, just soaking that in. That is what I love. I love seeing them just in shock because we're taking over. We're the head of this division. We now have the tag team title belts. Come get them. We're one of the best ever to do this. Second generation up and coming AEW superstars. Name a young team that's better than the Guns. There isn't. There is nobody that can touch us." Wow. Very, very, very strong words from the Guns indeed. Tony Khan has spoken about his philosophy when it comes to booking AEW and Ring of Honor crossover. Tony Khan has shared some insight on his thoughts about rosters for AEW and Ring of Honor while discussing an interesting hypothetical. Since Khan announced his acquisition of ROH in March last year, storylines for his new brand have played out on AEW TV in the lead up to Ring of Honor pay-per-views. Whilst ROH doesn't have a TV deal, the brand will host TV tapings for a weekly show on Honor Club soon. Following Khan expressing interest in WWE sale negotiations, he was asked on Bex and Buster about how he'd handle the rosters if he had a third wrestling company. Noting that he's happy with what AEW and ROH are doing, Khan said, quote, "If I owned another wrestling company besides the two I already own, it would be very challenging, but I think we would want to maintain separate rosters, just like I've tried to keep AEW and Ring of Honor to where there is crossover between the companies, but both have a strong pay-per-view business and AEW has a great television business." Soon I'll have more to talk about regarding when and where Ring of Honor's weekly TV will be on Honor Club, and going forward when and where we're going to tape those shows. There is some example of what we would do as far as keeping pay-per-view business separate, but having some crossover, it would certainly be different if it were a different company. With AEW and Ring of Honor, I'm very happy with what we're doing. Certainly, if there were other opportunities that arose in terms of acquisitions, then I would certainly be interested in them. Fightful Select previously reported that Ring of Honor TV tapings will take place in Orlando, Florida during the last weekend of February, which would be the weekend of February 25 to 26. It's been speculated that that will take place at Universal Studios, but again, that's yet to be confirmed. Finally, Dustin Rhodes has commented after being referenced on Monday Night Raw. AEW star Dustin Rhodes has responded to being referenced on last night's edition of Raw in a backstage segment, a continuation of the recent theme of wrestlers insulting a Rhodes brother by deriding their brother and deceased father on last night's Raw. After an in-ring segment with Sami Zayn, Cody Rhodes was minding his own American Nightmare business backstage when he couldn't help but overhear an interview with Baron Corbin. With Corbin noting that he didn't really get the big deal with Cody, he went on to insult his brother and his dad, at which point Rhodes began his attack. It should be noted that the last thing Corbin said before getting landed with a Rhodes-sized fist was a word about Cody's dog, so future foods beware. But now Dustin Rhodes has responded, tweeting, quote, "Everybody wants to be us, hashtag Rhodes family." That was essentially all Cody needed to open a sizable can of whoop-ass on Corbin, however, not taking time to change into in-ring gear for a Rumble. Cody Rhodes beat Baron Corbin via pinfall in what started out as a suit but ended up in just pants and shoes on last night's Raw. So there you go, Dustin Rhodes responding after the jibes against him on WWE programming once again. But there you go, guys, it's the latest AEW news for you. Be sure to smash a like on the like button, be sure to subscribe bottom right-hand corner. Let me know your thoughts on today's AEW news stories in the comment section below. Remember, you can join the WN365 roster by clicking that join button. You get badges, emojis, exclusive members only content as well. That's all coming in the future. Have a great Tuesday, and I'll speak to you again very, very soon. Hey guys, thank you for watching, listening, streaming, or however you come across this video today. Be sure to click on the video on the right there to watch our next video, or click the bottom there to subscribe, or the bottom right hand corner. Thank you very much, and I'll speak to you again very soon.